What if the most extraordinary buildings ever constructed in human history were not in Paris, not in Rome, and not in London, but hidden across a country that most travelers only scratch the surface of? Mexico is not just beaches and tacos. Beneath its skies sit structures so magnificent, so loaded with blood, revolution, ancient power, and artistic genius that architects and historians from around the world travel thousands of kilometers just to stand in front of them and lose their breath. In 2026, with a brand new international airport now operating in the south, record numbers of travelers are finally discovering what Mexicans have always known, that this country holds some of the most breathtaking historic palaces and ancient structures on the entire planet. But here is the part nobody tells you. Every single location on this list carries a secret, a hidden story, a piece of history so dramatic, so unexpected, that it completely changes how you see the building standing in front of you. And we have saved the most shocking one for last. Stay until the end, because number one will completely change everything you thought you knew about Mexico. Mexico's architectural story stretches back more than 3,000 years. Long before European boots ever touched this soil, civilizations like the Maya and the Aztecs were engineering structures so precise, so mathematically advanced, that modern engineers still cannot fully explain how they were built without contemporary technology. Then came the Spanish conquest in 1521. For 3 centuries, colonial rulers poured wealth, ambition, and imported European artistry into a new kind of Mexico, one where Baroque cathedrals, fortified castles, and grand palaces rose directly on top of ancient foundations. The collision of two worlds produced an architectural identity found absolutely nowhere else on Earth. Fast forward to the 20th century, and Mexico added another layer: revolutionary muralism, political symbolism, and national identity baked directly into marble walls and cathedral ceilings. What you are about to see across these 5 locations is not just beautiful architecture. It is 3,000 years of civilization, conflict, and culture stacked on top of each other, still standing, still breathing, still waiting for you. Number 5. Hacienda, Caxcantla, Tlaxcala. Most travelers flying into Mexico City never once look toward the state of Tlaxcala. That is their biggest mistake. Just a short drive from the capital, hidden between rolling hills and ancient farmland, sits Hacienda Caxcantla, one of the most underrated and visually stunning historic properties in all of Mexico. This is not a tourist trap polished for Instagram. This is raw, weathered, centuries-old history standing completely exposed against an open sky. Caxcantla itself has roots stretching back to pre-Hispanic civilization. The site was originally a major Olmec Xcalanca settlement, occupied as far back as 100 Common Era. The murals discovered here are considered among the finest pre-Columbian paintings ever found on Mexican soil, painted in extraordinary detail, depicting warriors, gods, merchants, and rituals that give historians a direct window into a world that disappeared over 1,000 years ago. When the Spanish colonial period arrived, the Hacienda structure was built directly over and around this ancient site, a pattern you will see repeatedly across Mexico. 2 completely different civilizations, 2 completely different centuries, sharing the same ground. What makes Caxcantla particularly extraordinary in 2026 is the ongoing restoration work currently being carried out by Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History. New sections of the site are being carefully uncovered and open to visitors, meaning what you see today is more complete than what any traveler saw just 5 years ago. This is a living excavation, history being peeled back in real time, right in front of you. Number 4. Tulum, Quintana Roo. Imagine building a city on the edge of a cliff, 60 meters above a turquoise sea, surrounded by a fortified stone wall on 3 sides and the open ocean on the 4th. No modern architect would dare propose it. But the ancient Maya did not just propose it, they built it, occupied it for centuries, and made it one of the most strategically brilliant locations in all of Mesoamerica. Welcome to Tulum, and you have never truly seen it until now. Most people know Tulum today as a destination for luxury resorts, Chinook diving, and wellness retreats. But the ancient walled city sitting on that clifftop predates every single hotel, every rooftop bar, and every influencer photograph by approximately 1,000 years. At its peak between the 13th and 15th centuries, Tulum was a major Mayan port city, a critical trading hub, connecting inland civilizations with Caribbean maritime routes. El Castillo, the dominant temple rising at the center of the site, was not simply a religious structure. Archaeological evidence strongly suggests it functioned as a lighthouse, its windows positioned so precisely that torchlight shining through them created a navigational corridor guiding canoes safely through the coral reef below. A 1,000-year-old lighthouse, built without modern instruments, still standing. In 2024, the opening of Tulum International Airport dramatically increased direct international access to this region, bringing record visitor numbers in 2025 and making Tulum one of Mexico's fastest-growing archaeological destinations heading into 2026. The ancient city and the modern world sharing the same clifftop. The contrast alone is worth the flight. Number 3. San Miguel de Allende, Guanajuato. There is a city in central Mexico that looks like it was lifted directly out of a European fairy tale, dropped into the middle of a high-altitude desert, and somehow became more beautiful for it. San Miguel de Allende is that city. And once you see it, you will understand why UNESCO declared the entire historic center a World Heritage Site in 2008. The crown jewel of San Miguel de Allende is the Parroquia de San Miguel Archangel, a neo-Gothic parish church so dramatically beautiful that it has become one of the most photographed structures in all of Latin America. Its pink stone facades and pointed spires rise above the city's rooftops like something out of a dream. But here's what most visitors never learn standing in front of it. The man who designed those iconic towers in the late 19th century, a self-taught indigenous stonemason named Zeferino Gutierrez, had never once studied formal architecture. He sketched his design directly onto the ground, using a stick, inspired by postcards of European Gothic cathedrals. No formal training, no architectural degree, just vision, instinct, and an extraordinary ability to translate imagination into stone. Beyond the Parroquia, San Miguel de Allende's colonial streets are lined with 17th and 18th century mansions, courtyards, and former haciendas that have been carefully preserved for centuries. In 2025, the city was ranked among the top 3 best cities in the world by Condé Nast Traveler readers for the 4th consecutive year, a recognition that reflects both its architectural magnificence and its enduring cultural energy. This is not a museum piece. San Miguel de Allende is alive, electric, and completely unforgettable. Number 2. Chapultepec Castle, Mexico City. There is only one royal castle in all of North America that was ever actually used as an imperial residence. Not in Canada. Not in the United States. In Mexico City, sitting on top of a hill that the Aztecs considered sacred for centuries before a single stone of the castle was ever laid. Chapultepec Castle is in a category entirely its own. The hill itself, Chapultepec, meaning Grasshopper Hill in the Nahuatl language, has been one of the most strategically and spiritually significant locations in Mexican history for over 2,000 years. The Aztec Emperor Moctezuma I used it as a private retreat in the 15th century. Spanish colonial rulers later recognized its commanding position above the Valley of Mexico and began construction of the castle structure in 1785. But the castle's most dramatic chapter came in the 19th century when Emperor Maximilian I of Mexico and his wife Empress Carlota transformed it into a full imperial residence between 1864 and 7. They imported European furniture, redesigned the gardens in the style of Vienna and Paris, and installed a private carriage road connecting the castle directly to the heart of Mexico City, a road that eventually became the famous Paso de la Reforma, one of the grandest boulevards in the entire Western Hemisphere. Then came the fall. Maximilian was captured by Republican forces loyal to President Benito Juarez in 1867 and executed by firing squad. His imperial dream lasted exactly 3 years. The castle he beautified became a symbol of Mexican resistance, later serving as the National Military Academy. In 1847, during the Mexican-American War, a group of young military cadets, some as young as 13 years old, refused to surrender the castle to invading United States forces. Several died defending it. Today, those cadets are honored across Mexico as the Niños Héroes, the boy heroes, and their sacrifice is commemorated at Chapultepec every single year. Today, Chapultepec Castle operates as the National Museum of History, housing one of the most significant collections of Mexican historical artifacts, murals, and imperial objects anywhere in the world. In 2025, the Mexican government completed a major restoration project on the castle's western facade, returning sections of the structure to their original 19th century appearance for the first time in decades. Standing on its upper terrace, with all of Mexico City sprawling to every horizon below you, it is almost impossible to believe that a place this extraordinary exists inside a modern metropolitan area of over 21 million people. Number 1. Palacio de Bellas Artes, Mexico City. Everything you have seen on this list has been extraordinary. Ancient Mayan lighthouses, imperial throne rooms, self-taught architects drawing cathedrals in the dirt. But nothing, absolutely nothing prepared us for the full story behind the most iconic building in all of Mexico. The Palacio de Bellas Artes in Mexico City is not simply a palace. It is not simply a theater. It is not simply a museum. It is the single most complicated, most dramatic, most historically loaded structure in the entire country. And the story of how it came to exist will genuinely shock you. Construction began in 1904 under the orders of Mexican dictator Porfirio Diaz, who wanted a grand opera house that would announce Mexico's arrival as a modern, sophisticated world power. He hired Italian architect Adamo Bori, imported the finest Carrara marble from Italy, and ordered construction materials and engineering expertise from across Europe and the United States. The building was designed to be finished in 4 years. It took 30 years. Here is where the story becomes extraordinary. The ground beneath Mexico City is not solid earth. It is the ancient lake bed of Lake Texcoco, the same lake the Aztecs built their capital Tenochtitlan upon centuries earlier. The combined weight of the imported Italian marble and the massive steel structural framework began sinking the building into the soft lake bed almost immediately after construction began. Engineers halted construction, redesigned foundations, resumed work. The building sank again. The Mexican Revolution erupted in 1910, halting construction entirely for years. Porfirio Diaz, the man who ordered the building, was overthrown and died in exile in Paris in 1915. never once seeing the structure completed. The building he dreamed of as a symbol of his power outlasted him, outlasted his government, and outlasted his entire political legacy. When the Palacio de Bellas Artes finally opened in 1934, 30 years after the first stone was laid, it had transformed from a Porfirian vanity project into something the dictator never intended, a monument to Mexican revolutionary identity. The interior walls were handed to the greatest muralists in Mexican history: Diego Rivera, David Alfaro Siqueiros, Jos Clemente Orozco. Their paintings did not celebrate Porfirio Diaz. They celebrated workers, revolution, indigenous identity, and resistance against exactly the kind of authoritarian power that ordered the building constructed in the first place. The dictator built the walls. The revolution filled them. And here is the detail that stops every architect and engineer who hears it. The Palacio de Bellas Artes is still sinking today. Since construction was completed in 1934, the building has sunk approximately 4 meters into the ancient lake bed beneath Mexico City. Ongoing engineering interventions monitor and manage the sinking continuously, but it has never fully stopped. One of the most beautiful buildings on Earth, slowly, quietly disappearing into the ground it was built upon. In 2025, the Palacio de Bellas Artes celebrated its 90th anniversary with a major international exhibition and a fully restored central dome, drawing record visitor numbers from across the world. Standing inside its marble halls today, watching light pour through stained glass onto revolutionary murals painted by artists who changed the world, you are not simply visiting a building. You are standing inside 90 years of ambition, collapse, revolution, resurrection, and art. No other building in Mexico tells that story. No other building in the world tells it quite like this. 5 locations, 3,000 years of history. One country that most travelers have barely begun to understand. Mexico is not a destination you visit once and feel like you have seen it. It is a country that rewards the curious, the patient, and the ones willing to look beyond the obvious. Every palace on this list has layers that no single visit can fully uncover. If this video opened your eyes to a Mexico you did not know existed, then do one thing right now: share this with someone who needs to see it. Subscribe for more travel documentaries that go deeper than the surface, because the world is far more extraordinary than most people are ever told. Mexico is waiting.